The first time I saw Ethan Caldwell, he was laughing so hard his beer spilled, his cruel words slicing through the crowded frat house like a blade. I was 18, a freshman at Stanford, and his voice, sharp, mocking, targeted me. The skinny kid with glasses who dared to exist in his orbit. By the end of that night, I'd learned faggot wasn't just a word. It was a weapon he wielded with precision. I was Daniel Harper, a small-town boy from Oregon, chasing dreams of becoming a writer in California's sun-soaked academia. Stanford was my escape from a world that never quite fit, but Ethan turned it into a new kind of hell. He was the golden boy, tall, blonde, broad-shouldered, with a smile that could charm anyone but me. Captain of the lacrosse team, heir to a real estate empire, he ruled the campus with a swagger that made others bow. To him, I was a target, a nobody who didn't belong in his pristine world. His taunts followed me through lecture halls, dining commons, and dorm corridors. "Hey, Harper, still writing your little poems?" he'd sneer, his friends snickering as I clutched my notebook tighter, my face burning. It wasn't just words. Ethan's pranks were relentless, my dorm room door glued shut, my essays accidentally spilled with coffee, my name scrawled on bathroom stalls with slurs I tried to ignore. I told myself I could endure it. I'd survived my father's disappointment, my town's whispers about this sensitive kid who read too much. But Ethan's cruelty was different. It was personal, calculated, as if my existence offended him. I'd lie awake in my tiny dorm bed, wondering why he hated me so much. Was it my quiet voice, my thrift store clothes, or something deeper? Something I barely admitted to myself under the flickering dorm light? By sophomore year, I'd learned to avoid him. I stuck to the library's back corners, ate meals at odd hours, and kept my head down. But Ethan always found me. One night, at a campus poetry slam, I read a piece about longing, veiled, careful words about loving someone you could never have. The room was kind, clapping softly, but then I heard his laugh from the back. "Nice diary entry, Harper," he called, and the crowd's warmth turned to chuckles. I fled, my heart pounding, vowing never to read aloud again. That night, alone in my room, I cried for the first time since leaving home. I hated him. I hated myself for letting him win. But life has a way of twisting the knife. Junior year, we were paired for a group project in American literature, forced to analyze Whitman's Leaves of Grass. I dreaded it, imagining his smirks as we discussed poetry he'd never respect. Our first meeting was in the library, and I braced for the worst. Ethan sauntered in, late, his lacrosse bag slung over his shoulder. "Let's get this over with, Harper," he said, barely looking at me. I nodded, keeping my voice steady, my notes meticulous. To my surprise, he listened. Not warmly, but quietly. He even asked a question about Whitman's themes of unity. I answered, cautious, expecting a trap. None came. Over weeks, something shifted. Ethan stopped mocking me during our meetings. He'd lean in, reading passages aloud in his deep voice, his brow furrowed like he actually cared. One evening, as we debated Whitman's views on identity, he said, "You're good at this, Daniel. You see things I don't." It was the first time he'd used my first name. I froze, searching his face for sarcasm, but his blue eyes were sincere, or so I thought. I didn't trust it. I couldn't. Not after 2 years of torment. Still, Those meetings became a strange refuge. We'd talk past midnight, the library emptying around us, our voices low as we unraveled Whitman's words. I saw glimpses of someone else in Ethan, a boy who quoted poetry with surprising gentleness, who admitted his father's expectations crushed him, who laughed without malice when I teased his terrible handwriting. I hated how my heart softened, how I noticed the way his hair fell over his forehead, how his rare smiles lit up the room. I told myself it was nothing. I was lonely. He was still the enemy. Then came the night that changed everything. We were at a campus bar, dragged there by our project group to bond. Ethan was quieter than usual, nursing a beer, his eyes distant. As the others danced, he leaned toward me, his breath warm. "Daniel," he said softly, "I'm sorry." "For everything." I stared, my pulse racing. Before I could respond, he stood and left, leaving me with the weight of his words and a dangerous spark of hope. That apology haunted me. Was it real? Or another game? I didn't know then that Ethan was wrestling with his own demons, ones he'd hidden behind his cruelty. I didn't know that our story was just beginning, that love could grow in the cracks of pain, or that the boy who'd made my life a nightmare would one day become my husband. But that night, as I walked back to my dorm under the stars, I felt something new, a flicker of possibility. Fragile but undeniable. Ethan's apology lingered like a half-remembered dream, too fragile to trust. I spent the next week dissecting it, replaying his words in the quiet of my dorm, searching for the catch. He'd never been kind before. Why now? Senior year was approaching, and I wanted to believe I could leave Stanford behind, Ethan included, but fate had other plans. Our literature professor assigned us another project together, this time on James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. The irony wasn't lost on me, a novel about forbidden love, assigned to me and the man who'd once made my life hell for being myself. We met at a coffee shop off campus, a neutral space where his lacrosse buddies wouldn't interrupt. Ethan arrived on time, his usual swagger softened, his hands fidgeting with a pen. "Baldwin's intense," he said, flipping open the book. "This guy? David, he's running from himself." "Right," I nodded, surprised he'd read it. We talked for hours, our voices weaving through Baldwin's themes of identity and shame. Ethan's insights were sharp, vulnerable even, like he was speaking from a place I couldn't yet see. One evening, as rain streaked the coffee shop windows, he asked, "You ever feel like you're hiding who you are?" "Daniel." His eyes locked on mine, and my throat tightened. I wanted to say yes, to tell him how I'd buried my truth under layers of fear, how his taunts had made it harder. Instead, I mumbled, "Sometimes," and changed the subject. But his question stayed with me, a crack in the wall I'd built against him. Our meetings grew frequent, less about the project and more about us. Ethan shared stories of his childhood, his father's cold expectations, his mother's absence, the pressure to be the perfect son. I told him about my small-town life, my dreams of writing, my fear of never being enough. He listened, really listened, and I hated how much I craved it. One night, as we walked across campus, he stopped under a street lamp, his breath visible in the chilly air. "I was awful to you," he said, his voice low. "I was scared. Daniel. Scared of what I felt when I saw you." My heart stopped. Was he saying what I thought? Before I could ask, he turned away, his shoulders tense. I didn't push. I was too afraid of what it meant, too afraid of the warmth blooming in my chest. But the next day, he texted me, "Meet me at the lake." 8 p.m. I went. My nerves electric. The lake was quiet. Moonlight dancing on the water. Ethan stood by a bench, his hands in his pockets. "I'm gay," he said. The words raw, like they'd been trapped for years. "And I think I've been falling for you." I froze, my mind a storm of anger and longing. This was Ethan Caldwell, the guy who'd humiliated me, now standing vulnerable under the stars. "You made my life hell," I said, my voice shaking. "How am I supposed to trust this?" He stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "I know. I was a coward, hiding behind cruelty. But I'm trying to be better. For you, against every instinct." I let him take my hand. His touch was warm, grounding, and for the first time, I saw the real Ethan, not the bully, but a man fighting his own battles. We started meeting in secret, stealing moments by the lake or in empty study rooms. Each touch, each quiet laugh, chipped away at my walls. But doubt lingered. Could I love someone who'd hurt me so deeply? And what would happen if the world knew? Ethan was still the golden boy, his future mapped out by his father's empire. I was just Daniel, the nobody with a pen and too many scars. One night, at a campus party, everything shattered. We'd agreed to keep our distance in public, but I caught his eye across the room, and he smiled, a private, radiant smile meant only for me. Someone noticed. A lacrosse teammate, drunk and loud, shouted, "What's with you and Harper? Caldwell, you sweet on him or something?" The room went quiet. Eyes on us. Ethan's face paled, and for a moment, I thought he'd deny it. Instead, he walked over, took my hand, and said, "Yeah, I am." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My heart pounded, torn between pride and fear. His teammates turned on him. Slurs flew, fists clenched, and I saw the old Ethan, the one who'd tormented me, flicker in his eyes, ready to fight. But he didn't. He pulled me outside, his hand trembling in mine. "I meant it," he said, his voice fierce. "I'm done hiding." That night, under the same stars where he'd first apologized, we kissed for the first time, the world fading around us. It was messy, imperfect, but it was ours. The fallout was brutal. Ethan's confession at the party spread like wildfire across Stanford. By morning, his name was a punchline, whispered in dining halls and scrawled in hateful graffiti on his dorm door. I watched him shrink, the golden boy dimmed by the weight of judgment. But he never let go of my hand. Not when his teammates shunned him, not when his father called, voice icy, demanding he fix this. I wanted to protect him, but I was drowning too, my own fears of being out, of being seen, clawing at me. We found solace in stolen moments. Late nights by the lake. We'd lie on a blanket, sharing stories of who we wanted to be. Ethan dreamed of teaching, not inheriting his father's empire. I wanted to write novels that made people feel less alone. We talked about a future where we could be together, free from the campus's prying eyes. But reality was crueler. His lacrosse scholarship was threatened, and anonymous threats appeared in my inbox, warning me to stay away from him. I told myself we could endure it. That love was stronger than hate. I was wrong. One evening, as we studied in the library, a group of Ethan's former teammates cornered us. Their leader, a hulking senior named Jake, sneered, "You two make me sick." Before I could respond, Ethan stood, his jaw tight. "Back off, Jake," he said, his voice steady but his hands shaking. Jake shoved him hard, and Ethan stumbled into a table. I lunged forward, shouting, but a librarian intervened before fists flew. We left, hearts racing, but the encounter left scars. Ethan's confidence cracked, and I saw the fear in his eyes, fear of losing everything he'd been. That night, in his dorm, he broke down. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, Daniel," he whispered, his head in his hands. I thought I could handle it, but my dad, my team, they're all I had. I held him, my own heart aching, and said, "You have me." It felt like enough in that moment. But doubt gnawed at me. Could I carry us both? Could I forgive the past when the present was so heavy? Graduation loomed, and with it, decisions. Ethan's father cut him off, refusing to pay for his final semester unless he came to his senses. I took a second job at a bookstore to help cover his rent, my own savings dwindling. We moved into a tiny off-campus apartment, a sanctuary of thrift store furniture and shared dreams. There, we built something fragile but real, cooking dinners together, reading poetry aloud, kissing away the world's cruelty. But the pressure never stopped. My parents, devout and distant, stopped calling when I told them about Ethan. The world felt like it was closing in. One night, Ethan came home late, his face pale. "I got an offer," he said, voice flat. "A teaching job in Boston. But they want me to start next month." My stomach dropped. Boston was across the country, far from our fragile life in California. "What about us?" I asked, my voice small. He looked at me, eyes wet. "Come with me, Daniel. We could start over." The idea was intoxicating, a new city, a fresh start, but terrifying. I had a writing fellowship lined up in San Francisco, a dream I'd fought for. Could I give it up? Could I trust him not to hurt me again? We argued, our first real fight. "You're asking me to leave everything," I shouted, my voice echoing in our cramped apartment. "And you think I'm not?" he shot back. I gave up my family, my team. For this, for us. The air crackled with pain, and I saw the boy who'd tormented me flicker in his anger. I walked out, needing air, needing space. The campus was quiet, the lake still under the moonlight. I sat on our bench, the one where he'd first confessed, and cried. I loved him, but love wasn't simple. It was tangled in old wounds, in fear of losing myself. When I returned, Ethan was waiting, his eyes red. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't want to lose you. If you need to stay, I'll stay too." His words broke me open. For the first time, I saw the depth of his commitment, the boy who'd fought his own demons to love me. We held each other, promising to face the future together, no matter where it led. Boston or San Francisco, we'd find a way. Love, I realized, wasn't just romance, it was choosing each other, again and again, despite the pain. We chose San Francisco. Ethan turned down the Boston job, and I kept my fellowship, a delicate compromise that felt like a victory. Our tiny apartment became home, filled with the scent of coffee and the sound of my typewriter clacking late into the night. Ethan found work as a substitute teacher, his passion for literature shining through despite the low pay. We were broke, but we were together, building a life from the ashes of our pasts. Still, the world didn't make it easy. San Francisco was vibrant, accepting, but not immune to hate. We'd walk hand in hand through the Castro, only to hear slurs hissed from passing cars. Ethan's old confidence returned in flashes, but I saw the toll it took, each insult a reminder of the life he'd lost. I carried my own burdens. My fellowship was demanding, my writing often rejected, and the sting of my parents' silence grew sharper. Yet, in our apartment, we found peace. Ethan would read my drafts, his feedback gentle but honest, and I'd watch him grade papers, his face lit with pride for his students. Love was in the small things, his hand on my back, my head on his shoulder, the way we laughed over burnt dinners. But the past wasn't done with us. One spring evening, Ethan's father showed up unannounced. Mr. Caldwell was a towering man, his suit pristine, his voice cold. "You're throwing your life away," he told Ethan, ignoring me completely. "Come back to the company, and we'll forget this phase." Ethan's jaw tightened. "This isn't a phase, Dad. This is my life." The argument escalated, voices rising until Mr. Caldwell stormed out, vowing to cut Ethan out of his will. I held Ethan as he shook, his grief raw. "He was all I had," he whispered. I kissed his forehead, promising he'd never be alone again. Life tested us further. My fellowship ended, and rejections piled up, each one a blow to my dreams. Ethan's teaching gig barely covered rent, and we fought over money, stress fraying our edges. One night, after a particularly brutal argument, I found him on our fire escape, staring at the city lights. "What if I'm not enough for you, Daniel?" he asked, his voice small. The question hit like a punch. I climbed out, sitting beside him. "You're more than enough," I said. "You're my home." We kissed, the city humming below, and I knew we'd fight for this, no matter the cost. Then came the letter. A small press wanted to publish my novel, a story about two men finding love amidst pain, inspired by us. The advance was modest, but it was hope, a lifeline. Ethan threw a party, inviting our few friends, his pride in me brighter than the candles on the cake. For the first time, I felt like we were winning. But joy is fragile. A week later, Ethan was attacked walking home from work. Two men, shouting slurs, left him bloodied in an alley. I found him in the hospital, his face bruised, his spirit battered. "I'm tired, Daniel," he whispered. Tired of fighting the world, I climbed into his bed, holding him, my own tears falling. "We'll fight together," I promised. Recovery was slow. Ethan's laughter returned in pieces, but so did his resolve. He started volunteering at an LGBT youth center, sharing his story to help kids like us. I watched him bloom, his strength infectious. My novel's release brought attention, interviews, and a small but loyal readership. We used the advance to move to a better apartment, one with a view of the bay. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We'd built something real, something worth every scar. One evening, as we walked along the Embarcadero, Ethan stopped, pulling me close. "I want to marry you, Daniel," he said, his voice steady. My heart soared, but fear crept in. Marriage was legal now, but it felt like tempting fate, like asking the world to strike again. "Are you sure?" I asked, searching his eyes. He smiled, That radiant smile I'd fallen for. I've never been more sure. Under the stars, with the bay shimmering, we promised forever. It wasn't just love, it was defiance. A vow to choose each other against all odds. Planning a wedding in San Francisco was a whirlwind of joy and chaos. We chose a small park overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. Autumn leaves falling like confetti. Ethan insisted on writing our vows, his teacher's heart pouring into every word. I was nervous, not about marrying him, but about the world watching. Hate hadn't vanished. It lingered in sideways glances, in the news, in the ache of my parents' absence. But as I stood in our tiny apartment, adjusting Ethan's tie, his smile steadied me. "We've got this," he said, and I believed him. The ceremony was simple, just close friends and a few of Ethan's students, their faces bright with hope. I walked down the aisle, a path of scattered petals, to Ethan, his eyes wet with love. Our vows were raw, honest. "I was lost until you, Daniel," he said, his voice breaking. "You showed me who I could be. I promised to choose him every day, to forgive the past and build a future." When we kissed, the crowd cheered, and for a moment, the world felt kind. Life as husbands was a new chapter, not without struggle. My second novel flopped, and self-doubt crept in. Ethan's teaching job became permanent, but the pay was still low. We leaned on each other, finding strength in quiet nights, in shared dreams. Ethan's work at the youth center grew, and I joined him, mentoring young writers. Their stories of pain, hope, love mirrored ours, reminding us why we fought. We weren't just surviving, we were building something meaningful. Years passed, and life softened. My writing found its audience, and Ethan earned a master's in education, his passion for teaching infectious. We bought a small house in Oakland, a fixer-upper we filled with books and laughter. The scars of college faded, though never fully. Ethan's father never reconciled, but we found family and friends, in the kids we mentored, in each other. One night, as we sat on our porch, Ethan said, "I wish I could take back those years I hurt you." I took his hand, the same hand that had once pushed me away, now wearing a ring that matched mine. "You've given me more than you ever took," I said. Our 10th anniversary came on a crisp autumn day, the park where we'd married glowing with memories. We renewed our vows, just the two of us, under the same tree where we'd once dreamed of this life. Ethan read a poem he'd written, his voice steady, each word a testament to our journey. I read from my latest novel, dedicated to him, a story of redemption and love. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of gold, I realized the true ending wasn't in the vows or the rings. It was in us, two men who'd turned pain into purpose, hate into healing. Looking back, I see the boy who tormented me and the man who loves me as one. Ethan's cruelty came from fear, his love from courage. Our story isn't a fairy tale. It's a testament to the human heart's capacity to change, to forgive, to grow. We didn't just survive the world's judgment, we reshaped it, one small act of love at a time. And as I hold Ethan's hand, watching the stars emerge, I know this is the ending we wrote together, not perfect, but profoundly ours.